What's up everyone? Welcome back to the Carnivore Chicks. My name is Patricia, and on this channel we talk everything health, fitness, and nutrition. And in this video I'm going to talk about stress and how it's one of the most misunderstood phenomenons that humans face. Over the last several thousand years, humans have been becoming more and more stressed. Articles titled Why Stress Happens and How to Manage It, or Effective and Easy Ways to Relieve Stress at Work are constantly rising up. Some people are even climbing trees barefoot to reduce stress. God forbid that they don't fall. Others are embracing their infant tendencies and putting their thumb in their mouth.
Come on, people.
In fact, according to American Institute of Stress, about 33% of Americans are extremely stressed, 77% are stressed to the point it impacts their physical health, and 73% are so stressed that it affects their mental health as well. But after doing some digging, it turns out that humans actually need stress. So before you go climbing trees or sucking on your thumb, I'm going to talk about stress, what it is, why we need it, and when it becomes something to actually worry about. Personally, I think stress is not something to stress out about, and I think you'll know more of how easily to avoid excess stress and why it's actually important just by watching this video and smashing the like button to crush the YouTube algorithm. In all seriousness, smashing the like button helps us out a ton. The more likes a video gets, the more likely it is to be recommended by the YouTube algorithm and to promote this video to a brand new audience. So if you want a video like this to slide into someone's recommended videos where they can see two chicks eating a raw steak, then please smash that like button. And as a thank you, here's a picture of a cute puppy. Thank you all so much. Alright, so to start things off, we're going to talk about cortisol. What is cortisol? Cortisol is a glucocorticoid, but in simpler terms, it's a steroid hormone our body naturally produces from the adrenals. It's regulated by the hypothalamus and with some influence from the CRH. The CRH is also known as corticotropin-releasing hormone. So what happens is our hypothalamus uses the CRH to signal our pituitary to release a hormone called adrenocorticotropic hormone. This enters the bloodstream and makes its way down to the adrenals, where it releases cortisol. Cortisol is important for a process called glycogenolysis. This is the breakdown of muscle glycogen in the liver and muscle tissue. This process happens because glycogen phosphorylase is released. Glycogen phosphorylase is an enzyme and is triggered by epinephrine and norepinephrine. Epinephrine and norepinephrine are released as part of our fight or flight response. So when our body is stressed, it allocates its resources away from less important bodily functions to muscle breakdown processes. It does this because if we think back to more barbaric or primitive times, humans would need to activate muscles to escape a predator and perform tasks like that. So instead of trying to run the immune system, for example, it begins working on muscle breakdown instead. However, once the threat is gone, our body goes back to homeostasis. This is all normal and is not necessarily a bad thing. But here's when things can get a little dicey and not be a good thing. Cortisol becomes a problem when there are chronically elevated levels. When there's chronically elevated cortisol, it leads to a catabolic process called proteolysis. Proteolysis is a process where proteins are broken down partially or completely into amino acids. In simplistic terms, and in times of chronic elevated cortisol, this can also be seen as muscle wasting. Chronic levels of cortisol are also known to suppress lipolysis and decrease bone formation. This means that it prevents the breakdown of fat tissues and a reduction in absorption of bone strengthening minerals. Elevated cortisol levels preventing the breakdown of fat tissue makes sense in terms of how humans would use cortisol in more primitive times. For example, if we needed to get away from a predator, then it's quicker for our body to burn sugar than it is to break down our fat stores. So when glycogen becomes released from the liver and tissues, this is another way for saying that our body is burning sugar stores. But elevated cortisol doesn't just impact our ability to break down muscle and burn sugar for fuel. Cortisol also suppresses the immune system. The body has a system of checks and balances for nearly every process. It has to remain at a level of homeostasis in the body. Elevated cortisol suppresses a group of cytokines that disable the production of T cell growth factor. T cells are known for secreting what's called the modifying factor that regulates cortisol release. So chronically elevated cortisol can suppress the checks and balances system with it. Now, no one wants to be chronically stressed. It leads to brain fog, memory issues, likely due to chronic elevated cortisol damaging cells in the hippocampus. The problem with chronic stress is that the body never returns back to a level of homeostasis. That's when the issues of cortisol arise. So if you experience bouts of stress at work, at home, or just personally, then it's not something to worry about. It's all part of being human and living with normal conditions. But if you're chronically stressed, then that's when measures are needed to really be taken to help you relax. I think it's also important to mention here that I think that there are some of us out there that actually like to be stressed. It's the adrenaline of a fast-paced job, or that feeling that maybe when you have some time to relax, you just need to be doing something productive. I know that for me, I can definitely be this way sometimes, and I've had to really step back and learn to be kinder to myself and realize when I'm actually doing this. Because if I would allow my body to just be on the go all the time, then I am chronically stressed for really no reason. So I just want to take this time right now to just say that please, if you're like me, be honest with yourself and take those steps back because your body needs to take a break and relax sometimes. Okay, now let's get back to the video. Luckily, we have a few tips on how to reduce stress with some minor adjustments. First, reduce alcohol intake. When coming home from a long day's work, it's nice to just sit down and enjoy a glass of beer. I get it. A buzz can help take the edge off and force ourselves to relax, but while we may temporarily feel good, our body is going through increased stress. In one study, they tested the relationship with alcohol consumption and cortisol secretion. By the end of the study, they found that alcohol consumption increased cortisol levels, especially amongst the heavy drinking groups. The drop in cortisol was much less over time with heavier drinking, meaning the body wasn't necessarily returning back to homeostasis. This is likely due to another study showing that heavy drinking and alcoholism can have a number of changes on the body, likely due to the dysregulation of the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. If you want to know more about this axis, we actually explain it in our video on testosterone, which we'll link up here and down below. So while nightly drinking may seem like a great way to reduce stress, it's actually doing the opposite in times of chronic stress. There does need to be more studies on this, but for now, it's just best to stay away from it. The next thing you can do to reduce stress is to limit processed carbohydrates. Now, having some carbohydrates in normal stress conditions is just fine. In primitive times, if humans needed to evade a threat, it activates the fast-burning fuel glycogen. But because our body needs energy quick, consuming items like fruit can provide a quick fuel source. Some studies have even shown that carbs can reduce cortisol levels. However, chronic stress is linked to risks like obesity, metabolic syndrome, heart disease, type 2 diabetes, depression, and other ailments. Managing chronic stress can show more benefit to reducing carbs intake. Cortisol leads to increased blood sugar levels. As we discussed earlier, elevated cortisol suppresses the checks and balances between regulating blood sugar levels. Over time, elevated blood sugar levels lead to metabolic disorders like insulin resistance. The better course of action in diet is to eat a diet that is high in nutrients with less large blood sugar spikes. So instead of eating comfort food like ice cream and cookies, we should be eating a bioavailable, nutrient-dense diet. This type of eating means more animal foods and fruits. Animal foods like steaks, chops, roasts, or every other cut provides our body with essential amino acids and nutrients it needs to perform optimally. The saturated fats that they hold are stable or more stable than any other fat and reduce the risk of oxidative stress because of that. They also hold the vitamins and minerals our bodies need in a bioavailable form. This means it's more easily absorbed into our bodies. Check out our video up here to learn more about that. Lastly, fruits can assist our energy levels and adrenal support. However, not everyone can tolerate all fruits and not all fruits are created equal. With all this talk on stress, folks, stress is not something to stress out about, and there are natural measures we can take to reduce stress without having to climb trees barefoot or do some quirky things. So with that being said, please don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to our channel to get more videos like this. We also have an Instagram, and if you haven't already done it, add us there. We'll drop a link below if you just want to click right into it. We will see you next time, and always keep it rebellious.